Hello and welcome to the Business Spotlight interview series. I am your host, Barrett McDonald, and today I am joined with Matt Mizzi, CEO and co-founder of Drinkable. So Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. Would you like to kick things off with a brief background as to who you are and what it is you guys do?
Hey, Barrett. Glad to be here. Why don't I dive in kind of talking about my background first? Environmental scientist, got my degree at Acadia University here in Nova Scotia. Got into venture capital through the venture grade program at SMU. Just before that, we actually went to with a group of Acadian University students. We represented the university, went to the Canadian Nationals for the venture capital investment competition. I never knew what venture capital was before that. Didn't even know it existed. And from there, I think we went to the US Nationals. We were the only team that picked the correct investment there. I was the only scientist on any of the teams. And one of the investments was particularly science heavy. And it was just a light bulb moment for me that this is where I needed to be, at the intersection between scientific innovation that can help people and understanding and translating that into the high growth scalability side of businesses.
Absolutely. So how long have you guys been in operation now, Matt?
Over at Drinkable, where we're building the world's first, or have just recently finished building the world's first easy to use, accurate, and affordable water test device for consumers. We've been in operation for just over 4 years now, or I have been. I met some of our co-founders at a hackathon, a water-focused hackathon. And over the next 9 months, during COVID, it started like the first week that COVID locked everything down. So we basically built our company through COVID.
That's amazing. So when you look back over the last few years, if you had to start all over again from square one in business, what would you do differently the next time around?
It depends who I'm speaking to. I think from a personal perspective, I would probably start a more revenue-based company as opposed to an investment-based company. I think that's just, especially in this day and age, it's just less risk. It's more palatable. I think it would be more enjoyable. Although I like being a slave to myself, I'm a slave to myself right now with a company setting its sights on the moon. So it's not for the faint of heart. There's been a lot of people around me who have been pretty burnt out on our approach to the moon, and that's not fun to see. So I would say startups are less for the faint of heart than I would have thought when I first got into them. I'm happy to be here, but I think I would have probably had a higher emphasis on picking mentally tough people who've maybe been through something in their life and bounce back really quickly to give you an idea of that, and maybe aim a little bit smaller.
Absolutely. So there's nothing wrong with aiming for the moon, because even if you miss, you're landing amongst the stars, right? To really focus on being top echelon and top tier there. So you kind of touched on building a team and having people around you. So what qualities do you look for in your employees and those who you're working around, and how do you foster a positive and productive work environment?
Number one, probably conscientiousness. So the ability to do what you say you're going to do. Stay organized, show up on time. Those are qualities that I think are probably the best predictor of everything. I'd rather work with someone totally unqualified in a space who's kind of got the right mindset, has that ability to show up, will continue to show up, and like I said, that grit to keep on doing it when their personal life isn't necessarily going the best. Past that, something we really, really, really overvalue is honesty and transparency and clean communication. So we're constantly calling each other out for stuff that could have gone better. Going to the moon, you don't survive a crash, so we're pretty intolerant of imperfection. So like we're designing a device for the safety of drinking water. There's no messing around. There's no, oh, sorry, I forgot to do that, or we messed up the trace channel on the sensors. So easy mistake. That doesn't fly. It's
Right.
we have a metaphor, which is if you've been tasked with carrying wood across a lawn and you get struck by lightning, it's still your fault. And that's the mentality we all have. And we apologize when we get struck by lightning.
Right. Absolutely. Well, those are high standards to stick with. So I can understand how you're selective in your process, and there's nothing wrong with knowing who you want and what fits your mold. I think it's a very noble thing to know. So what would you say have been some of your biggest learnings as an employer since you began your business?
Just how immature I was. Holy crap. I can only imagine that I'm only just starting out that growth curve of just personal skill sets I need to properly manage people. I really thought leadership went smoother for me in my younger years, where I was the captain of some team or head of something else, head of a project. That seemed to come reasonably naturally. And that's where I probably got the experience I needed to be where I am. But I didn't know that that was, 5% of what I needed to know. I thought it was, 60, 70%. So
Right.
really checking myself, growing every day, and just getting struck by lightning.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say are some of the common misconceptions about running a business, and how do you try to address them?
It's a good question. I grew up with parents who had their own businesses, and whose parents had their own businesses. And I thought everybody realized and knew the amount of sacrifice that was required. But I'm learning that people that didn't get that exposure grossly underestimate how all-consuming it is, and just how devastating a bad day of work can be when it's your entire life. And that it's not really a 9 to 5 turn your brain off kind of opportunity. It is really all encompassing, and that in some ways, if you're really trying to open something that's competitive, and it'll get enough momentum that it's going to attract the right people and everything. How do I say this? Hold on, let me back up there. Lost my train of thought.
That's all right.
Can you remind me what the question was again? Sorry, I'm out to
Yeah,
lunch
no,
here.
no problem. No problem. So misconceptions about running your business, and how do you address them?
Right. Yeah. So I think coming back to that, there isn't really a work-life balance. I think if you're going to run your own business and shoot anywhere close to the moon, you're throwing that concept out the window, and you're orienting your life to sustain you while you slowly die. And you hope that you get the company off the ground before you're dead.
Absolutely. It's a massive undertaking, that's for sure. Which makes sense. So what do you, when you do give yourself time to have a bit of a personal life, how do you kind of work that into your schedule?
I have probably 2 days a week where I spend time with my partner, and it's a 9 to 5 day on those 2 days. 1 or 2 days, I would say, during the week, and then it's often a weekend day where I can spend time with my partner. And that's really needed. I had a conversation with one of the managers at our work today, where she was like, I think I need one night a week where I don't work past 7 p.m. And I'm like, yeah, maybe 2 of those.
Yeah, yeah, at the very least.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say that on the partner side, I've got a dog that I need to walk every day. He's an Aussie Shepherd Blue Heeler mix, so he's an absolute nightmare if I don't walk him, and a really good coach in that sense. And every Monday night I have ultimate frisbee, and I think some sort of sports outlet is really important. I think just running once a week is so good for my health, and has really sustained me. So through those 3 outlets, that's my focus.
Yeah, as I've been going through this spotlight series and watching some of my counterparts do theirs, entrepreneurs and business owners tend to say, I have to schedule it in or it won't happen. So you're kind of toting that party line with a lot of that, where if it's not intentional, I'll put work first, so I have to make it an intentional effort, which makes total sense. So you talked a little bit about growth and finding investors in that process. What do you attribute to your ability to do that as you're scaling?
I think transparently, everybody's going through some misfortune there. I wouldn't really say misfortune. A lot of us knew this was coming. I didn't think anybody assumed the downturn would occur as fast as it did. Like, I think funding has dried up, particularly in Atlantic Canada, at a rate that I was not at all anticipating. I think the rest of Canada's average is okay, but Atlantic Canada, I think a little bit more risk averse. So we've had a lot of success at the seed stage planning. So when we're talking to people about multiple millions of dollars, we've optimized the company for people who know how that industry works, who
Right.
know what happens afterwards. And so when we talk to people in San Francisco or Ottawa or Colorado or Europe, we're aligned. But talking to investors in particular that we've fostered more locally, there's a mismatch between the amount of risk you need to take to even align with those future investors. So I would say in retrospect, I would have focused more on angel and pre-seed investors so that we had more short-term funding. And I would say I haven't done the best job of doing that. So we've been kind of month to month, where every 2 to 3 months we get another check-in, and then we reorient our game plan based on that check size and that frequency. And right now we're doing our best to deliver all the milestones we need to deliver to get to maybe Q2 of 2024, where we can do a multi-million raise. And I would say entirely the success there has been relationship building and product market fit. And what I mean by that is that we've built our company to be plugged into certain types of investors or investment funds, because we realized the likelihood that we wouldn't if we didn't orient the company with that in mind. I have a background in Series A cold emailing investors. Like I had to do 30 of them a week when we were doing managed fundraising in Toronto. And I have done 0 of that. And I think that's part of the reason we've had some bad luck on the angel side, but it's all the reason we've had success on the seed side, because I almost don't use my pitch deck. These are conversations where the right person introduces me to them. I build a relationship with them, get to understand how their firm works, where are they in their own fundraising cycle, how old is the whatever, get to personally know them, email them every week with updates, and really leverage 5, 6, 7 conversations max at a time. And I've been managing some of those conversations now for 2 years. And only recently from some of them got LOIs for investment totaling about $8 million. And so they're now approaching competing with each other for that investment that we've been slowly working towards. So relationship building in a day and age where no one wants another investment email is what needs to be done in my eyes.
Yeah, it sounds like you've broken it down into the more personal side of doing everything instead of the cold calling, and that's a very good way of approaching it, in my opinion. And people have lost that personal touch, and when you create that again, it ends up working wonders and doing some tremendous things. So when you're thinking about wrapping up this interview and you're looking at the other side of the camera and being like, if I was watching this, I wish someone to give me one piece of advice if I was thinking about jumping on the entrepreneurial self-employed journey, what would that be coming from yourself?
It's going to take longer than you think, but that shouldn't be a deterrent. I don't think I would have heard it. There's no way I would have heard it properly. And there's no way I wouldn't have been deterred if I understood it. And I think that's why entrepreneurs keep happening. So just keep going. Maybe that's a better, just do it.
Just jump. Yeah. There's no better time than now. The only failure is to not start, right?
Exactly. The whole, you're not ready to be a parent until you are one.
Yeah, that's putting it a good positive way for sure. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Matt. It was great getting to meet you and learning more about your entrepreneurial journey. And to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.
Thanks for the space, Barrett.
Thanks, Matt.